Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast, where we shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and business leaders in our community. I'm your host, Craig Whipperman with Music City Action Coach, and today we're excited to introduce you to someone who's blazing a trail in the painting industry right here in Nashville. Our guest today is Tiffany Wondrow, founder and owner of CNR Services, Inc. We'll dive into Tiffany's background, explore the challenges she's faced, and the successes she's celebrated. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or simply someone who loves to support local businesses, this conversation is sure to inspire and inform. So, without further ado, let's welcome Tiffany to the podcast. How you doing, Tiffany?
Wonderful. Thank you, Craig, for having me.
Yes. So, tell us briefly about how you got into the painting business. Maybe a little bit about your background and how did painting come along?
It's a long and amazing story, so
Okay.
I'll modify it the best I can. But just about me, originally from New Orleans, graduated in 1991 from Destrehan High School, went straight into the Marine Corps, um, went to Paris Island, graduated with honors from Paris Island, and started my 4-year career active duty with the Marine Corps. I was an admin and loved what I did. Got to go to Okinawa and a couple other countries whenever I was in the Corps, and that gave me my GI Bill money. That gave me medical care for after, and I did 2 years reserve, so I have a total of 7 years in the military. Whenever I was getting out of the Marine Corps, my husband at that time, Craig, he and I got stationed here in Nashville, 1995, and there was, a 6-month waiting list for an apartment. We were freaking out, didn't know what we were going to do. My ex-father-in-law had gotten us an apartment off of Fessler's Lane in a really rough part of town, but on paper it looked really good. So we pulled up and there was gunshots and there was police presence, and we were like, this is not where we can live. And so we were homeless basically for 3 weeks, living out of um, the first couple of nights we actually were in the back of our in the back of our rental. We were poor, we didn't have much money back then as just getting out of the military, and so we wound up talking to some recruiters, Marine Corps recruiters, that one of the guys was dating a lady that got us into an apartment. And so we started apartment living. Um, but I was excited to be in Nashville, but also kind of scared because I didn't know anybody. And I wound up getting a job as an admin assistant through the old newspaper. Remember when we used to open up newspapers and look for jobs? And so I started out as an admin assistant at this one company, but the main thing I loved about working in that building was the building. It's the office Century Plaza in the airport area, and I loved the building. It was beautiful. In the Marine Corps, in the military, you just get a bunch of old rundown brick buildings and you get stuck in places, and this was a beautiful building. And I remember walking down the hallway one day and a woman was barking orders to these guys. I'm like, ooh, I want her job. And I went and asked her who was she, and she's like, my name is Linda Medlin. I'm called a facility manager. I manage this building. I'm like, what do you mean? And so she explained to me that she makes the toilets flush and the flowers bloom and everything look good for every day when we would go in there. And I wanted to get into that industry. And so she introduced me to some people, and I got into property management at that time. I managed the gold building on Briley Parkway. I loved all the aspects of being a property manager. Then I became a facility manager. I managed what was the old big white building on Stewart's Ferry Pike. And I kind of took my expertise was taking buildings from owner occupied. So, for instance, the last building I managed was the Ford building in Cool Springs. So they owned the whole building, they managed the whole building, they operated, but now they wanted to sell the building and only occupy half of it. So my expertise was kind of going in and I leased it. I would do construction, make it multi-tenant, put take away an exercise room or a cafeteria to make leasable, rentable space. And so I always loved construction. My parents were in a hodgepodge of entrepreneurs, from landscaping to construction to cleaners. So I'd always been around kind of the entrepreneurial spirit. And I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted a steady paycheck. I knew every 2 weeks, being a property manager, I got this money. I saw feast or famine with my parents all the time. I had uncles that were in construction or other entrepreneurs, and I just saw them always like feast or famine. It's when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's really bad. I didn't want anything to do with that. I loved my every 2 weeks I got a paycheck. I had insurance. And then I got divorced and I started dating this guy. And next thing I know, I was like, look, you're about to have a baby. Wasn't mine biologically, but I was like, you're about to have a baby. You need a job. His pickup line back then was he was a graduate of the CIA, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, me a Marine, him from the CIA. And then I learned it was the Culinary Institute of America. And so I was like, okay, you kill people with cholesterol, right? But we started dating, and I said, you know, this restaurant business is not inducive to having a family. And um, he wound up getting on with a maintenance company and started maintaining properties. And one day, the guy he worked with was just like, hey, I hate my painters. Do you know a good painter? And he's like, oh yeah, I do painting on the side. And so Jason comes from, that's my husband, Jason. And so he comes from a construction background in Arizona, from concrete to drywall to painting. And so his joke used to be he was a jack of all trades, master of none. And this painting opportunity fell into our lap. And so he called me up. We've been married for a few years, and um, this opportunity happened where, hey, here's these condos we need y'all to paint. And so I called in my parents from Louisiana, an uncle from Alabama. We had some friends here in Tennessee, and so we painted a condo in the week on the weekend with a baby in a pack and play with a drop cloth over him to protect him. And on that Monday, the manager's like, hey, great job. Here's 70 more to do. And so we kind of fell into the painting aspect.
What
And
year was that? Sorry, what year was that?
2001.
Okay.
Yep. And so at the time, Jason said, you know, hey, let's do these condos. We got through those. I was still working full time as a property manager. So I had that steady bread, that every 2 week bread. And so next thing I know, he started a doing business as, so Jason Wondrow doing business as CNR. And he was doing that for a while. And I thought, oh, that's good hobby money. That's good, you know, our vacation money. And then I realized, okay, I'm working all day, I'm working all night helping him. And so in 2008, our Great Recession was when
Mhm.
he finally said, when are you going to quit working for the man and come work for me? And I said, well, I'm not going to work for any man. I will work with men. And he's like, babe, just tell me what to say. I'm like, work with you. And so we then decided to take CNR to the next level. We had incorporated, we had made me the majority owner. I was the one doing business development, sales, contracting, IT, flushing toilets, cleaning ceilings, whatever we needed to do. And so in 2008 was when I came on full time. And he was doing a couple $100,000, you know, that was pretty good, you know, side money. The first sale I made was my whole year's salary. So I knew that that was the right thing that I needed to be at and what I was doing. And that was from a Marine over at Charles Hawkins. Bob Wolferts gave us our real big first opportunity. And we didn't stop since then. And so I started targeting property managers and facility managers for years. That was our business. And then we started shifting over to general contractors. And now the majority of our business, we did 5 million last year. I think we're going to do 7 or 8 million this year based on what we're doing right now. Um, and I believe that we're on steady track for growth. And it's been amazing. I work every day with my best friend, husband, soulmate. Our son Hayden, who's that baby that was in that pack and play, is one of our estimators, project managers. He's the next generation. So we're on track for steady growth. We paint everything in Nashville and surrounding cities.
Wow. I mean, that is a fascinating story. You go from sleeping in the back of the rental car in 1995 to running a what $5 million business, $7 million business today.
Yes. Yeah.
That's 30 years, almost 30. That is exactly 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May. Yep. And the irony is Jason moved here in May of 95 for a different person. I moved here in May of 95 for a different person. And just through whatever you believe the universe, you know, does, I believe in God. So I believe there was a crazy path that I had to take to get to him. and he to I, and we're doing this thing every day where we're affecting people's lives. We have over 50 people that work for us, and their families and their cousins and brothers and sisters and husbands and wives, and we don't have a lot of turnover, and most painters, there's a lot of turnover. So I think we're doing something different because we are literally a family-owned business working with family people.
Mhm. Yeah. So you mentioned that you really enjoyed that steady bread, and you just and you were around the feast or famine as a child with your family and uncles and all going out the entrepreneurial way, and then you take the leap of faith and go work with your husband. How
Yes.
was that scary at all, or did it was probably scary until you made that sale where one
It was
sale?
terrifying, Craig. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
terrifying. I mean, because now we had a second child. We had our biological child, and so it was terrifying because I knew at least whenever I was working, I can control that situation. Um, I was in real estate though, so there were some times whenever my buildings I managed, I would be in them one day and the next day I was told it was sold. So there was a lot of factors that were always up in the air. Um, Brian over at Highwoods Properties, Brian Ream is his name. He recently retired from there, but he told me, in my opinion, was one of the best things he ever told me. He's like, Tiff, every building that you are in is up for sale at every minute. And that really put a perspective to me that, okay, I'm going to work hard. I was in lots of buildings that would sell, and I'd go with the new ownership sometimes, and so I understood that concept, but it really made me understand I had no control of what was happening in or around me. At least on this side of the business, I can control what is happening to me. I can choose who I want to work for, who I don't want to work for.
Mhm.
Um, I tell a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes the most gratifying experience you can have as an entrepreneur is not that next big job you get, but when you actually feel like when you can fire a client that it just isn't working anymore. And
Yeah.
so to me that was whenever I knew things were different, was when I kind of came to, we jokingly call this the dark side. When I came to the dark side, um, because when you're in property management as a general contractor, you're the main uh, check holder, check writer, like you control
Hmm.
that destiny. Over
Hmm.
here as a sub, you're always on the dark side trying, that's a whole Star Trek or sorry, Star Wars,
Yeah.
reference. But
Got it. Got it. Got it. So that property management experience just how valuable is that now, considering what you're doing?
I mean, honestly, it was invaluable to me. I mean, it taught me really. I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I learned who I want to work for and who I don't want to work for, and how you want to work. I had one of the best bosses, but she was a micromanager, and
Mhm.
I knew I didn't like that world. I loved working for her. I just didn't like her style. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
learned a lot of things that I thought in my head would later help me as a leader, how I would run my company differently. Um, and 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 honestly, relationships, property management, facility management, a lot of great networking groups out there. It's so relational versus transactional, and that's huge for me. And so I think I've carried a lot of that from the Marine Corps leadership training I got to being an admin, taking care of people, to then being in real estate, to now running my own company. I think it's all, every step has led me to be where I am now.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny how that happens, isn't it? How it doesn't make sense unless you're looking back. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You can't make sense of what happened until you.
No, I mean, I was in the middle of some really tough situations. The gold building on Bradley Parkway, for instance, International Plaza. The I was with the old ownership, and we were literally in the very last phases of selling the building from the old ownership to new ownership. And the guy that was my boss, who was an alcoholic, rarely at the job ever, I covered for him a lot, learned a lot of great things from him too, and I love him. as a person. I mean, I'm from alcoholics, so I didn't recognize that he was an alcoholic. I just thought he was a bad manager.
Hmm.
I'm like, why doesn't he come in till 1 o'clock every day? And why do we have to work till 9, 10 o'clock every night with him? But when you're in it, you just do what you do to survive.
Yeah.
And he had given permission to this really not very experienced electrician to come in and do some work. And I had the electricians that we used on the jobs a lot on site. And this guy, this electrician wound up frying the main electrical panel the day we're in closing. And so I had 24 hours to guarantee this new sales, the new buyer, that the building would be up and operational. I saw a 4-foot fireball shoot out of the electrical panel at this guy.
Gosh.
It was terrifying. But those were just like some of the things about real estate I loved. I was a part of it during Y2K, trying to figure out if the building is gonna everything's gonna shut down and how do you handle that. I've had
Mhm.
floods, I've had fires. Um, I caught a couple in the bathroom one time. Like there's things that when you're in real estate, it's very interesting the stories you can talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. But so you mentioned firing a client and how that was uh, oh, I don't know what word it is you used, but you were happy to be to a point, I think, where you could fire a client. And maybe until that point, you felt like you needed the business so bad that you couldn't afford to fire a client. But at what time, how long did it take you to get to the point where you could fire a client?
I mean, we were 10 years in. We were 10 years deep.
Hmm.
And it was about the respect for each other and the feeling I believe that this person was able to dictate to me and my employees how we're going
Mm.
to do things. And the just the professionalism that was presented of the jobs. Like it wasn't like, hey, here's a nice set of plans. It's like, hey, meet me here, it's written on a napkin, here's what you got to do. I mean, you got some that's like that and you understand that, but when that's how they operate all the time and you're jumping through hoops to try to take care of that person, you finally have to just go, this just doesn't make sense.
Right.
This is how they run their business. And just because they run their business that way doesn't mean I need to. And
Yeah.
so it was, we parted ways. We still talk occasionally, but I say all the time, it's that moment when you know that you can walk away from someone that you truly have been, that you're successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You try to
Eh,
make it work. You try to make it, because not just this city, but any city, you don't want to burn any bridges. And if you're
no.
going to burn it, you better burn it down because it's hardly ever that you get to
Well,
come back from it.
yeah, there's certainly a strategy to what's the word? Um, Maybe there's a little bit more pleasant word probably than fire, but lead your least favorite customers to maybe another source that might be a
Yes.
better fit for them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's certainly a strategy in doing that. But
For sure.
so let's see here. What's the hardest thing you've been through in your business? You mentioned a couple of economic downturns there, and of course, I'm sure that was challenging. But what do you think the biggest challenge has been for you since you guys have started, or since you joined your husband in CNR?
Man, I'm going to tell you, it's the people.
Hmm.
We joke every day, like if we were just putting paint on walls, like that's the easy part. It's the people putting the paint on the walls. It's the money you're trying to get from your clients and those relationships. It's who do you want to spend your time with? Like who are your other business partners that are taking care of you, from your insurance agents to the rent on this building. But honestly, it's the people. We've trusted people to come and help us and be a part of our team. A couple of them left us and started a competitive painting company, and
Mhm.
so that really sucked because they went after our clients. They went after them aggressively because they didn't have the overhead like we had. They took our numbers, they took our estimates, they took our projects. Um, but I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and competition sharpens the sword kind of situation. Um, I had to just keep my team. hey, keep your head up. Don't talk bad about people. Don't stoop to that level. If you want to go out and create a business, I understand that, but go after your own business. Like, why did you have to come after mine? Well, because it was easy. They knew the people. That was the hardest part when you trust someone, you're paying them to do a great job, and then they stab you in the back, take your clients, and then you're having to rebuild. But honestly, Craig, it's the best thing that could have happened because we wound up dropping a lot of those clients that didn't have loyalty to us. We were like, you want to go with them? That's fine. We understand. They're cheaper. They're not as good. But we kept marching and we wound up going after bigger general contractors. We've secured those jobs. And I believe that that's what's propelling us into a brighter future is we didn't look back. We just kept looking forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a
Yes,
great point too. Not worrying about, I mean, because you don't want, honestly, you don't want clients who are so price sensitive. I get it, that it can be looked at as a commodity, but it's your job as the owner to kind of differentiate and develop those strong relationships, right?
that's true. And the reality is some of those clients that we walked away from are the same ones that have called us and said, can you please come in and fix this mess that the other company made? And they're no longer using them and they're only using us. And it isn't even about a price point anymore. It's about, hey, we have these jobs and you're doing it. We've
Mhm.
become their preferred painters because we came in and rescued them because they looked at price more than the people doing the work.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a big thing that's happening right now. There's a lot of more transactional GCs coming to town. They're coming
Mhm.
in, they're building a PF Chang's, and then they're leaving, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
understand that. We understand you just want the lowest number because if you got 3 or 4 great painters, they're doing great. Like what differentiates you between them? Well, it's
Mhm.
it's the price point.
Yeah.
And so we understand there's a lot of great painters in Nashville. I hire them sometimes. Sometimes the bigger guys hire me, but it's knowing that there's going to be times where you're just a transaction. They're coming
Mhm.
in, they're doing a job, they need you to paint it, and they're going to be on their way. And
Yeah.
that is when it's just the best number.
Right. Right.
But a lot of our local people are about relationships. But they even are, I mean, they've been working with some of the other big guys in the painting world for 40 years. So I'm now the newer one coming in town, even though I've been doing it now 30 years. Some of them
Mhm.
have been longer than that, 50 years, um, but there's some new painting companies that have come to town also. So you just got it's just business, Craig, you're
Yeah.
always I feel like every 4 or 5 years we're having to change what we're doing and how we're doing it and who we're doing it with. Right now we're looking at adding a whole nother line to our income for some stuff that we've never done before, but we're being asked to do it by these clients. So we're going to invest into this next revenue stream that I think is going to help propel us. I think honestly, we could do 9 million this year. I'm being, yeah, I'm being very reserved when I say 7. I know we're going to do 7, but I think we could do 9 if we can get this other line of income up this year.
Wow. And can you share what that other line of income is, or you're not ready to announce that?
I'm not ready to announce that just yet,
Okay.
but it has to still do with the painting world.
Okay. That's awesome. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. I'm glad to hear. I've been looking forward to hearing. And you know what, Tiffany, I just now remembered I saw your picture in the Nashville Business Journal.
Yes.
And what were you recognized for?
I'm letting my guys know I'm on a Zoom because they're outside cleaning the warehouse right now. So I hope
Okay.
the noise isn't too bad.
No, no, no,
Um,
no. I think it's fine.
Thanks. I've been recognized a few times actually. I
Mhm.
usually make the list for largest veteran-owned business. I am a Marine Corps veteran, so I try to do that. And I've always put in my information for them. Um, the other one is woman-owned business. I'm usually
Mhm.
on the top 25 for that. And then I'm letting them know I'm sorry. I'm like, stop blowing. You may have to edit this a little bit. But anyway, um, and then so 2022, I had a heart attack and stroke at the same time. I was I was dying in my sleep, and a stray dog we rescued woke me up, pulled me out of what the doctors were calling a death slumber. And so I had just found out in January. So I had the heart attack and stroke in December of 22. I found out in February that I was nominated and in the running for Woman of Influence. And then in April, I actually won that award. And it was
Wow.
for a family-owned business. So that made me feel really important, and that all the stuff I had worked so hard for, I was being recognized by my peers and by the National Business Journal for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, what would you do differently if you had to start all over?
To be honest, I think I would have, which we have incorporated, is better paperwork, kind of just to protect ourselves a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, better paperwork to protect ourselves, a little bit more understanding of what is going on. Are you able to pause?
Yeah, I think we can.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're back now, and we'll pick up where we left off with you. That one of the things you would do differently is
Yes.
have better paperwork, or I guess you mean uh,
Agreements,
non-compete.
documentation. I think that Tennessee is a right to work state. You understand that,
Sure.
there's a lot of stuff that protects employees for, and I understand that I was that employee years ago, and we don't want to do anything to take away from that relationship. But when you have employees that you're paying to be leaders in your company, and they're privy to all of this background and this information, what protects you and your intellectual property after that?
Mhm.
And it's really tough in Tennessee. It's really tough to do that. But we've got one guy right now that doesn't want to become an owner. Like, he understands this is a Wondrow owned company. It will always only be owned by Wondrows. And he's our right-hand man, Caleb. He's our CFO. He's instrumental in what we do every day. He understands that he would never be an owner, but he's approached us about other things, like what would a partnership look like? What would maybe be some profit sharing at the end of the year look like? And so, whereas before maybe we would have just talked about it, we would have made some notes, we would have sent an email. Now it's a little bit deeper. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's get a lawyer just to write up something for us. It goes back to, Craig, contracts, right?
Mhm.
Back in the day, and I know you probably remember this, we used to have clients that would be like, oh, here's your number, go do it. Handshake, thumbs up, go do it. Now, that's just not heard of anymore. It's very rare that you have those. And until I got bigger contracts with much larger general contractors that I really understand, a contract truly is to protect them and to protect us, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so we got to have that mentality even on a small business level. There's no more just the handshake. You can have the handshake, but you better follow it up with some documentation. And
Right.
that's usually a lawyer just typing up something simple for you to make sure you're all on the same page. So I think that that's one of the hard lessons we learned was you want to empower people, your employees. You want them to represent you. You want them to help you grow your business. But at some point, you can take care of them as much as you want to financially, give them the time they need when they need to go do things. But in the long run, you have got to protect yourself and your company.
Right. Right. So, looking back and from where you guys began, um, and have you fulfilled where it is you, or have you achieved? Have you grown the business to the point where you expected it to be, or have you done better than what you expected to be?
Well, I think it's twofold, like you're asking. It really is. I definitely feel like we have exceeded our expectations as far as the quality and quantity of work that we're doing. To think that we painted Ferrari, like that was a great project to be a part of. We've painted the stadium Inn has now become the Drift Hotel. I don't know if you remember the Stadium Inn, but for me being here 30 years, I've watched that place go from a decent looking hotel to a drug and prostitution den to
Mm.
now a beautiful boutique hotel that they charge like $400 a night for. It's to be on those like kind of repurposing projects. I love those kind of things. Um, I love the quality of work that we're doing with our customers and who they are. And I love a lot of our customers. We have great relationships with them. So I feel like we've exceeded our expectations and where we've grown to. The toughest part still is the money. Like the money is there. Like right now I have 1.4 million that's due to me. But
Mm.
in our world, Craig, it's a pay when get paid situation.
Mhm.
So I'm getting paid for work that I did in February now.
Oh, wow.
So I'm fronting all that money. I'm the one paying, we're the ones having to do all of that. And unfortunately, it's a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, that's
Mhm.
entrepreneurship as it is. But I have these conversations weekly with other men and women who are in small businesses struggling to work with contractors because it takes them long to get paid, and then it takes us longer to get paid. Um, you don't walk into your hairstylist and be like, hey, thanks for this haircut. I'll pay you in 2 months. You don't
Yeah.
go to the grocery store and be like, hey, thanks for this. I'll pay you in 45 days with no interest, no penalties. The construction industry, in my opinion, is the only industry that I know of where people are told every day to go start hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jobs with no money up front, and you don't get paid for 45 to 60 days. And
Wow.
so that's something I really am becoming more and more passionate about because here I am 25 years deep into this, and I have 3 million on the backlog of work to be done. I've got 1.4 million on AR. However, this week I was struggling to make payroll.
Wow.
So that's a reality. And I don't mind talking about that. I can say that because I want other people that are out there to know the struggle is real. Like it is really one of those things where, um, I mean, I just had this conversation 2 weeks ago at a happy hour with two other women, and they're like, the business is great. We got lots of work, but I'm having to take money out of my investment to pay payroll this week because I have 200,000 that I'm waiting for this week.
Yeah.
And if your general contractor gets into kind of any kind of mediation or legal situation with their client, then you're really screwed
Yeah.
because all my client has to keep saying is, well, I haven't been paid yet. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? As long as they haven't been paid, then legally they can't pay us. But we
Mhm.
have great relationships. I've called many of our clients like, hey, you owe me 40, can I get 10? You owe me 30, can I get 5?
Mhm.
And so they work with us, we work with them because they're in the same boat too.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, like, I wish I could still figure that aspect out. I've got one of the smartest guys, Caleb. I mean, he is financially, I swear I jokingly say how the Neo from Matrix was in code, had all of the numbers, right? That's how
Mhm.
I think Caleb sees things. Everything's numbers. And
Yeah.
I'm like, if he can't figure it out, I'm not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But we're doing some aggressive things, like we're going after the SBA for a 2 million loan because we want to expand. I keep talking about this other revenue stream. Well, in order to do that, it's different equipment, from everything from the vehicle you use to tow the stuff to the equipment to apply it, the training. And so I think we're fixing to come into one of our best years yet as we're preparing for this new revenue stream.
Mm. Yeah. So the receivables and the pinch that you're in, industry wide problem in construction?
Industry wide, this is one of the only industries that I know of that is unheard of to ask for money up front before you start a project.
Wow.
But if I'm going on a project tomorrow and there's wall covering, I got to buy all that wall covering, have it staged. If I want to get reimbursed for it, I usually got to take pictures of it. I got to show it's in my warehouse. I got to show insurance on that material that's sitting in my warehouse, and then I can submit to get paid for it. But say that's not even the case. I'm starting jobs right now that I can't turn in a pay app for until next month.
Mhm.
They get their pay app, it takes them a month to process it and pay it. So that's 60 days right there.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that I feel subcontractors should get together. I'm not trying to make a monopoly, but subcontractors, the only way it's going to change is if subcontractors start saying to the contractors, you need to give us something to work with.
Mhm.
And then the contractors should be pushing their clients, and they're all getting financed by these banks. The banks have got to understand you're
Yeah.
expecting everyone to put out all this capital until you catch up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine a think about somebody who's building a power plant. I can't imagine there not being, points throughout a multi-year project where there are, milestones reached and payments made as a part of the agreement. I just can't imagine that not being the case.
Yeah, and I mean, there's different scenarios for
Yeah,
different projects.
yeah, yeah,
Financing from these banks run differently for different things, but the majority of what we're doing on a day in, day out, which is, painting buildings that are either
yeah,
ground up or already existing, the majority of that, as I understand, these general contractors don't ask for money up front either. I'm sure if it's $100 million deal, like a battery plant, they're getting something, right? I can see
yeah,
that. But those are the one outs. I'm talking RGCs that are doing $2 and $3 million jobs, five to
yeah,
$10 million jobs.
yeah,
I think the majority of them are fronting that no different than I am. It's just a different level.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
know for the trade partners, we're all in the same boat.
Mm, yeah. Well, that makes business challenging, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And it's that whole thing I didn't want to do, the feast or famine. I
Yeah.
never worried about money. 22, I never worried about money. 23, I never worried about money. 24, I started worrying about money because obviously sales are indicative of that cash flow. And so we had had a couple of bad hires. Um, and you realize it, but we're people. We put people before profit all the time, Craig.
Hmm.
And when we slowed down, we kept working our people. We didn't slow them down. The work was there. Um, but after the holidays, it seems like the money just slows down too. So November and December, you get paid, but then you don't get paid. Like they don't start cutting checks again usually till February. So there's
Hmm.
another month. And so we actually changed the structure of CNR from a S Corp back to a C Corp. And that's going to change just some of the money flow. So we're doing some things that's going to be a little bit more aggressive than most trade partners, I think, do as far as the money. We are asking some of our clients for money up front, and we've getting some positive feedback because they're saying, I can give you, basically, they're pre-fronting us our overhead. Like you can't really ask for money from the banks for work you've done when you haven't done the work, but they're
Hmm.
able to get us some of our overhead. So, I mean, if I'm on a, $150,000 job and I get 10% of that before I've even stepped on the job, that is going to help me for the rest of that project.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what's the expression? You don't know till you ask. And the worst
Yeah.
thing they can say is no.
Exactly.
But if
Ex-
if if 5 out of my 20 jobs I'm starting give us a little bit, then it's just a little bit less struggle on the front
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how long have you been pursuing that strategy?
A month.
A month. Wow.
Yep. Yep. We sat down as a team and was just like, we got to start thinking of some things outside the box. And my accounting assistant was like, why can't we ask for something up front? I'm like, because it's just unheard of. He goes, yeah, but why can't we ask? And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Why can't we ask? Let's just ask. And so I think I was just stuck in that mindset of, well, this is just the way it's always been done. And he kept on saying, but why? And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people that aren't just yes men or women, but why men and women.
That's beautiful. I couldn't agree with you more.
Thanks,
Good for
Craig.
you. Good for you for having a person around you and for finally listening, I guess,
Yes,
you ask the question, but
yes,
realizing it's a good idea and why does it have to be that way? And if you're working with customers, clients who understand, and with whom you've worked with in the past and you've got a good relationship,
yes.
it's not like it's not like you're trying to take advantage of them in any way.
We're not. Oh,
You
Craig, the worst part, buddy, the worst part is whenever you have 1.4 million on your AR and you're calling and begging your clients for your own money.
yeah.
You're like, hey, can I get 5 of the 40,000 you owe me for 90 days?
Hmm.
And it's not that our clients they're great, but they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You
Right.
know, I've got one client right now that's in a legal situation. Their client owes them $1.5 million. And I need 12,000 that they owe me. And he's like, Tiff, I can't because we're in this legal thing. And if I pay you, then like there's a ramification for it. And I'm sitting here over, I'm like $12,000. I need 12,000. He's got 1.5 he's having
Yeah.
to deal with.
Yeah.
So it puts in perspective, but here's the difference for me. He was upfront and honest and told me about it. He
Yeah.
wasn't ghosting me. He wasn't ignoring my calls. He wasn't ignoring my emails. He's telling me the entire time, this is what's going on. This is where we're at. This is what I can do for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's in the same boat we are right now.
Right. Right. Well, Tiff, I tell you what, it's been a great conversation. It's been
Thank
a
you.
lot of fun talking to you, learning about your painting business, CNR,
Thank you.
CNR services. And man, amazing. 30 years.
I can hear the smoke. I can smell the smoke in your brain going off. And
Yeah.
um, I'm just going to start having these conversations with people because I do believe at some point we're going to legislature. We're going to make some changes. I'm really proud of another thing that just started recently in Nashville. It's called the um, sub 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 trade partner association. Oh man, I just slaughtered that. It's not a subcontractors association, and they just
Mhm.
hired a young woman, Andrea, and she's really trying to get this networking group up and going. And I think that that's where some of these conversations are going to start happening, Craig. So I hope we'll do this again down the road, and I'll tell you about all the changes that I've helped make in the subcontractor world and maybe for contractors too, because I do believe it's the start of a conversation that's going to start happening more and more.
Yeah. Well, it does, I'm the last person to say, bring in some regulation, but it's like,
Yes.
you know, I don't know. It should not be, I don't know. I don't know who's holding on to the money. It should be, business shouldn't be done that way, I guess. I don't, I have to go back and look at history and see how, because this is probably not uncommon, right? It's probably been going on forever. And the reason it
It's been
happens,
going on forever. And it's not, we're not just talking, I mean, we're talking everywhere. Like I
yeah.
talk to trade partners everywhere. I'm in, I'm in NAWIC, the National Association of Women in Construction, and there's
Hmm.
a lot of general contractors in it, but there's a lot of trade partners. And I
Hmm.
had this conversation with women across the United States, and they're like, "How are you doing it? What are you doing differently?" And that's one of the things we talk about is the Robin Peter to pay Paul or
Hmm.
Pauline. Robin Peter to pay Pauline.
Yeah.
So
Well, if we do come back, I'm sure you'll be on the cover of the National Business Journal, with accolades about how you've made changes in this space here. So
I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna
yeah,
claim it. That sounds
yeah.
perfect.
There's a
Thank you,
there's a
Craig.
bit yeah, there's a vision for you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Tiff, it's been great talking to you.
You
Uh,
too, Craig.
and we'll stay in touch and look to connect again. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Craig.
All right. See you.
Many blessings.
Bye.